Hare Krishna. We are slowly progressing this path of Bhagavad Gita, which is known as an Upanishad. Though it is not technically an Upanishad, yet it is a sum and substance of all Upanishads and Yoga Shastra. You may all remember at the end of each chapter we read this, right? It says Upanishadsu Yoga Shastre. So it is a Yoga Shastra. Shastra means a text which contains certain important instructions relating to yoga. And yoga, as we all know by now, it is the way to unite oneself with anything. But in this context, it is to unite one's mind with the Supreme Divine. So this Bhagavad Gita is an instruction or a manual how to go about uniting oneself with the Divine. And this is the purpose of life. Welcome to the recap and a summary of chapter 8, which we went through in our Bhagavad Gita class this Sunday at Slough Hindu Temple. Well, this is the opportunity for those who missed the class and also for those who would like a recollection of chapter 8. So in this chapter, Krishna deals with the inevitability of death. It is a sign of sanity and wisdom if one takes time to contemplate their death. Although many would consider it morbid or unpleasant to contemplate death, but it's nevertheless a real situation that nobody wants to experience, but that everyone has to face. The Bhagavad Gita outlines 4 such unavoidable predicaments. These are birth, disease, old age, and ultimately death. We often forget the inevitability of death. And in this chapter number 8, entitled Attaining the Supreme, Krishna dealt with this very subject of death. So what's the acronym of this chapter? It's DEAD, D-E-A-D, doubts, end of life, attaining the supreme, and devotion. Doubts. How did this chapter start? At the end of the chapter 1, Krishna mentioned some technical terms. Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Yagna. Arjuna wants to know what these technical terms mean. He starts asking questions. That's how chapter 8 starts. First 2 verses are the questions posted by Arjuna. Arjuna asked 8 questions. These are: what is Brahma? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adi Bhutam? What is Adi Deva? What is Adi Yagna? And where is this personality reside in the body? And the last question: how can a person know Krishna at the time of death? So these are the 8 questions Arjuna has posted, and Krishna is answering these questions very, very mercifully in shloka number 3 and 4. In shloka number 3 and 4, Krishna answered 7 questions. What is Brahman? Brahman is indestructible, transcendental living entity. What is Adhyatma? The eternal nature of the self is called Adhyatma. What is Karma? Those actions which are leading to the development of next material bodies are called Karma. What is Adi Bhuta? It is that physical nature which constantly changes. What is Adi Deva? Adi Deva is that universal form which contains all the planets of demigods and demigods themselves. And what is Adi Yagna? Adi Yagna basically Paramatma. And where does it reside? It is residing in the hearts of the living entities. So this way Krishna answers 7 questions. The answer to the 8th question is covered in the next section. End of life. Now, the 8th question. How can one remember, O Krishna, at the time of death? That is covered in this section. In the shloka number 5, Antakale chamameva smaran mukta kalevaram yap prayati samadbhavan yati nastata sanchaya. The one who remembers me at the time of death will come back to me. What about those if someone remembers something else? This is answered in shloka number 6. If anyone remembers anything apart from me, he will attain the state of that particular object. So what are we supposed to do? Just remember him and do nothing else. In shloka number 7, Krishna said, remember me and carry out your prescribed duties. And in shloka 8, Krishna said, he who meditates on me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in me, undeviated from the path, is sure to reach me. So who's sure to reach Krishna? The one who is doing Ananya Bhakti, undeviated from the path, focus on Krishna, he's practicing devotional service. So in this section, Krishna has spoken about who can remember him at the time of death and how can one remember him at the time of death. Attaining the Supreme. There is a nice meditation that is given at the start of the section, shloka number 9. Suppose someone wants to remember Krishna. What qualities one can remember? Krishna is Kavim, he knows everything. He's Puranam, he's the oldest. Anushasitaram, he's a controller. Anor Anyansam, he's the smallest and the smallest. He's the smallest and the smallest. Sarvasya Dhataram, he's a maintainer of everything. Achintya, he is inconceivable. Rupam, he's a person. Aditya Varanam, he's luminous like a sun. Tamasya Parastat, he is transcendental to this material world, which is under the 3 modes of material nature. So this way, these are the different aspects from which one can meditate on to remember Krishna. In shloka 10, Krishna is saying at the time of death, if person can fix his life air in between the eyebrows without deviating the mind, remember the Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain the Lord. And the person who are educated in Vedas, utter Omkara, and they maintain celibacy and detach from sensual engagements, and they do Pratyahar, that is closing the door of senses, fixing the mind on the heart and life at the top of the head, one establishing itself in yoga, is like the ones keep away from sense objects, maintain celibacy through yogic technique. He pulls the life air at the top of the head at the time of the death. What does this person who is practicing the Chakra Yoga do? At the time of that, suppose he is able to chant Omkara, Om, thinking about Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he leaves the body, he will surely reach the spiritual planets. So this is remembering Krishna through Shat Chakra Yoga. In 14 to 16, Krishna talks about remembering him through pure bhakti. One who remembers Krishna without deviation, such a person, it is very easy to obtain Krishna. Such great soul will never come back to this material world and attain perfection. Here Krishna gave a stamp to this material world that this is Dukhalayam Ashastram. It is full of misery and temporary. Here Krishna said, even if anyone goes to Brahma's planet, finally he has to come down, because everything in this world is temporary. No position is permanent. So in this way, Krishna made it very clear that only by practicing pure bhakti, one can attain Krishna and goes back home to Godhead. And yet, at the end of this section, Krishna gave a comparison between the material world and the spiritual world. Here we cover the Brahma's age, as you all remember. So what's one day of Brahma consist of? 14 manvantaras. One manvantara consists of 71 Divya Yugas. And one Divya Yuga consists of Satya Yuga plus Treta Yuga plus Dwapar Yuga plus Kali Yuga. So in this way, we understand one day of Brahma includes 1000 Divya Yugas put together. And in this section, we also looked at what happened in the day of Brahma and the night of Brahma. A day of Brahma, all living entities are manifested, and the night of Brahma, everything becomes unmanifested. So basically, in a day of Brahma, all the bodies are created by Brahma, everything is in motion, and when Brahma goes to sleep, all the bodies, all the senses, sense objects, all the places of enjoyment, everything merges in the body of Brahma. All the living entities, they take the shelter of Mahavishnu. And at the end, Krishna talks about the spiritual world. That spiritual world is eternal, supreme, and never annihilated. This place is unmanifest and infallible, and it is a supreme destination. And anyone who goes to the spiritual world never comes back to this material world. And at the end, Krishna made a strong point. How can Krishna be attained? Only by Ananya Bhakti, unalloyed devotional service. There is no other way apart from this. And this takes us nicely to the last section, D, devotion. Same. In this section, supremacy of bhakti is spoken about. Krishna talks about those yogis who has some control while leaving the body. If they leave at a particular time, what happens? When the yogi leaves at the light time, they actually attain supreme. They go to Brahma Jyoti basically. And if they leave the body in the dark or in smoke, they go to a certain planet, example moon planet. But finally, they have to come back to this earthly planet. After this, Krishna is instructing Arjuna, how does the devotees behave? Devotees are least bothered about this day or darkness. Why? They are not bewildered because they are always fixed in devotion. And the ones who are practicing devotional service or performing devotional service, they surpass all the pious results or activities. Like doing fire sacrifice, doing lots of austerities, doing charity, pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. All these pious results are there. They just surpass it just like that by practicing devotional service. So Krishna actually made it very clear how practicing bhakti is supreme. That gives all the benefits. In this way, Krishna has spoken elaborately on this particular chapter about attaining the supreme. And the key lesson here is devotional service. And now Krishna is going to give us very, very intricate details and the most confidential knowledge, secret, in chapter number 9. Let's begin this in my next video. Hare Krishna.